Hey there, Altenew friends, it's Jaycee for another perfect pairing. I'm grateful that many of you leave kind comments, questions, and feedback on my videos. In fact, on my last perfect pairing from the May 2020 Full of Whimsy release, I received quite a few comments on the Mega Brush Alpha stamp set and how to use them. So for today's video, I'm going to show you 3 progressive examples of alphabet stamp projects using the Mega Brush Alpha stamp set. This 6x8 stamp set is perfect for any occasion with its modern brush lettering. The size of these letters complete any of your card making or scrapbook projects. As always, I've got all the materials linked down in the description box, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do so. Before we dive into the card tutorial, I'll preface with this typography perspective. Typically, when hand lettering for calligraphy, your downstrokes, or these thicker lines, tilt on the same axis. In this Altenew lettering example, all of the letters fall to the right slightly. Conversely, you can align your letters on a perpendicular axis, and either way is fine, just as long as they're uniform. So to put italics into practice, I'll use the Mega Brush Alpha stamp set to spell Altenew again on this scrap piece of paper. And you'll see all of the letters tilt on the same axis. Aligning these axes gives your word a more uniform and deliberate appearance, rather than a font face of a child first learning to write. So with that knowledge, let's jump into the first card. On my Altenew craft mat, I've got a scrap piece of typing paper cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'll add a horizontal line with a pencil and begin aligning the word hello to the paper. I'm keeping the paper spacing uniform and trying to get the word centered on the A2 panel. Once I have a rough idea of how I want the word to sit on my panel, I'll use an acrylic block and a black ink pad to stamp the word, keeping in mind to keep the tilt on the same axis. Some of the letters in this alphabet set, like the H and E for example, are meant to connect to the next letter, so I'm making sure that they do so for a continuous appearance. Here is the product of the stamping. This is now my template that I will use on my card front. I'll set my Hello template aside and grab the Altenew Statement Flowers stamp set. I'll stamp 2 panels, one white panel with Altenew permanent black ink, and one gray panel with a light gray dye ink. Off camera, I colored just the petals of the flowers with Altenew artist markers. I'll return one of the colored panels to my stamp positioning tool and overlay the Hello template on top. Now, using this template, I'll use the clear photopolymer stamp to align the letters, much like how you would layer Altenew Build-A-Flower images to each other by looking for alignment points through the stamp. Once I have enough alphabet stamps aligned without running into each other, I'll pick up the letters from the template using the lid of my stamp positioning tool. Then I'll remove the Hello template, ink up the stamps with obsidian pigment ink from Altenew, and stamp them onto my colored panel like normal. I'll do the same with the remaining letter E by returning the Statement Flowers panel to my MISTI and overlaying the Hello template on top. Then I'll align the letter E to my Hello template and pick up the stamp with the lid of my MISTI, remove the template, and stamp the remaining letter onto the flower. By using the template, I will be certain the letters are going to look as if I brush lettered them. And now, since I already have a template, I can keep using it to make my second gray card. Now I'll return the grayscale cardstock to my MISTI, overlay the Hello template on top, and align enough of the letters so they don't run into each other. Instead of using obsidian pigment ink, I'll use a sticky watermark ink to white heat emboss the sentiment on top of these flowers. I'm making sure to heat emboss the letter groupings individually, so on the orange card I had to do the HLLO, then E with obsidian, and I will do the same groupings, heat embossing in between. So HLLO, apply embossing powder, heat emboss, align the E and ink with Versamark, then heat set the E. For both cards, I added coordinating splatters using jet black and pure white ink sprays, and added an additional sentiment from the Statement Flowers stamp set, and that finishes these 1-layer cards. Now that you have your template, you can mass produce this card for a future crafting session. The only limiting factor is the speed of which you color your flowers. Okay, so the next set of cards are for those of you who don't like to color but love Altenew's layering stamps. I am a procrastinator and I know many of you are precrastinators, so to get a 7-month head start of your holiday cards, I'll show you a quick and simple card using the Mega Brush Alpha stamp set and Altenew Brilliant Baubles stamp and die set. So first I'll layer and stamp the most circular ornament following the layering guide found on the stamp packaging. I'll also stamp the ornament caps and die cut the pieces using my Altenew Mini Blossom die cutting machine. I'll quickly glue the ornament caps to the ornaments and set 2 of the ornaments aside while I work on my letter template. Again, I've got a scrap piece of typing paper cut to A2 in my stamp positioning tool. I've added a horizontal line to help keep the base of my letters fairly uniform. Now I will spell the word Noel, but replace the O with one of the ornaments. So I'm using my template to align all the letters, making sure I have even letter spacing, that the tilt of the letters are uniform, and most importantly that the placement of the ornament makes sense to replace one of the letters in the word Noel. Here is my completed Noel template, and I'll use this template to align the letters on 3 card fronts, one for each ornament. Just like the hello cards, I'll place my white note card below my Noel template. I'll do one step at a time 3 times to help with mass production. So first, I'll gold heat emboss the letters N and L since they don't run into each other. Then I'll heat emboss the E for each panel. Then I'll lay all 3 panels next to each other and add some gold splatters from the 14 metallic watercolor pan set from Altenew. Before adhering the baubles to my card front, I'll add the string that suspends the ornaments onto the scene. One by one, I'll foam mount all of the layered stamped images, ensuring they're all centered to the string. Lastly, I added some twine and sequins, and that finishes these 3 Noel cards ready for December. Or now, I won't judge. For my last example, I'll start off the same way as the first 2 cards by making an alphabet template. This time I opted for no slant in my letters while I spelled the word adore. However, I do want to show you all how I corrected for a mistake on my template. After finishing this template, I was liking how centered the entire word was, but the A and E were too far apart. So to fix this, I first aligned the D, O, R letter stamps on my first template. Then I grabbed a new A2 piece of typing paper and stamped the letters onto it. Then I fixed the placement of the A and E, scooching them inward slightly. The reason I picked the word adore is because it is from this Altenew Adore You stamp and die set. Thank you all for suggesting this stamp set to use on my series. I'm using the template to plan the placement of 3 flowers on my card. I'm being careful about how complex to make this scene, as you'll see it makes a difference on how hard I need to work to achieve the look I'm going for on this card. One by one, I'll pick up one of the flowers and on a new scrap piece of A2 typing paper, stamp the flower onto my second template. So you'll see I'm making sure the flowers lay on top of the alphabet template, then pick up the stamp with the lid of my MISTI, and stamp the flower onto my bouquet template. I'll do the same one last time with the smallest flower. As for the leaves, I know that they won't appear on the foreground of the scene, so I don't need to worry about their placement around the word template. And that will make more sense when you see the final assembly of the card. Okay, so I have 2 templates, one with the word adore and the other with my flower arrangement. I'll set these 2 aside and work on a watercolor panel to color the flowers. I'm using the Altenew watercolor brush marker refills from the Winter Wonderland set to create a smooshed background. I'm not shooting for perfection here, I'm just looking for great intensity and full coverage. I did something similar in my first perfect pairing for May 2020, so make sure you check that out in my Perfect Pairings with Jaycee playlist to find that video. Once the watercolor panel is dry, I'll return it to my MISTI and stamp the same flowers and leaves from the bouquet template with Altenew Enchanted Gold Pigment ink. Pigment inks take some time to set, so I'm going to set this aside before die cutting the flowers and leaves. So while that's drying, I'm going to do a step I forgot to do earlier with the bouquet template. I'm aligning the coordinating flower dies to the outline images and tracing the outline of the metal die. This card is all about accuracy and precision. I need to be able to get the location exactly right multiple times. So tracing the dies is going to help me get the die cut flowers centered, which means I'll be able to align the die cut image to the pencil outline. Now that the pigment ink is dry, I'll cut out the flowers and leaves using the same coordinating dies. In my MISTI, I have a piece of A2 white cardstock. I'll overlay my Adore template and stamp the word onto my card front using obsidian pigment ink, just like the first Statement Flowers orange card. Notice I've left 2 of the letters on the lid of my MISTI. If you remove them, no worries, this just saves one step of aligning letters to your word template. With one of the die cut flowers, I'll apply some adhesive to the back of it. I don't want to permanently glue this down, so I'm removing some of the tack by touching my finger to the adhesive several times. Then, using the pencil tracing of the die, I'll align the die cut flower to the pencil tracing, ensuring an even margin around the flower. If it helps, you can put the die cut with temporary adhesive back into the die and align both pieces to the pencil tracing. Then when you remove the die, the flower will be temporarily adhered on top of the bouquet template. Once the flower die cut is aligned, I'll stamp the D letter stamp already on the lid of my MISTI on the flower using obsidian pigment ink. I know the letter O is also going to overlay this flower, so I'll grab the Adore template and lay it on top of the bouquet template, aligning it to the top right corner of my MISTI. Then I'll align the letter O to the template, pick up the stamp with the lid of my MISTI, ink up the stamp, remove the Adore template, and stamp the letter onto the flower. I'm going to work down the sequence of letters and flowers from left to right, so knowing my scene, I know the smallest flower will also have the letter O over it. So I'm aligning the die cut to the pencil tracing on my template and stamping the O on top. I also know the largest flower will have the O, so I'm doing that all at once so I don't have to remove the letter stamp from my MISTI. Then I'll move on to the next letter, R. Since I'm changing letters, I need my word template. I've got that lined up to the top right corner, aligning the R to my template. I'll pick up the stamp and stamp it on my largest flower just like usual. I know the smallest flower will also need the letter R, so I'm lining that up again to the pencil tracing and stamping the letter one last time. The largest flower needs that last letter E, so I'll quickly stamp that. Finally, the medium flower needs the letter A, so I'll backtrack to that, repeating the alignment template process for the final time. Before I show you why I did all that work, I'm going to add black splatters to the Adore card front. Just to reiterate, this is not the template. After gluing this panel to my note card base, I'll dry lay these die cut flowers on top of the note card base. And just like that, I hope you see the importance of both templates I made earlier. These flowers overlay the Adore sentiment and align perfectly, and the real magic of this overlay technique happens when you foam mount certain elements. So that's exactly what I did with these 3 flowers. I'll add the leaves to this arrangement, add a sentiment banner, and some sequins to finish this card. If there are too many layers to this card and find it difficult to replicate in your own crafting space, start with 1 flower to get used to the 2 templates. And be sure to foam mount that flower or stack some die cuts to get the full effect of the sentiment overlay. Also, don't toss those templates, keep them with your stamp packaging to use on future projects. It'll save you some time later. So using alphabet templates, help made Mega Brush Alpha stamp set pair with a few of my Altenew favorites. What else would you all pair with Mega Brush Alpha? Let the community know in the comments below. While you're there, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more card making tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.